Welcome back. We are going to kick off round 2 of the Baby Cakes Wedge 6 build for the 8-inch sub to go into my Mazda 3 sedan. Thanks for checking out the first one. If you didn't check out the first one, thanks for checking out this one. Hopefully you'll stick around and watch the whole thing. Like I said in the previous video, there is going to be 3 parts to get the whole box built. So yeah, let's get started. So the next step is going to be filling in this upper corner. Normally I would probably do a Nerf style with multiple cuts and then bending, but because it's such a small box and because it's a wedge and it's going to be some awkward geometry in the corners, what I'm going to do is just place pieces here and then fill it with Bondo and sand it smooth. So I'm going to cut some pieces, glue them in place, use this as an inside radius to line everything up on, and then once the glue dries, I'll run a saw along the back. I'll record that and get everything following the slope for the wedge, and then fill the gaps with Bondo and sand it all smooth so it has a nice rounded corner finish. Whether I'll paint it or not is up in the air right now. How the heck are we gonna do this? All right, of course. So once the wood glue sets, I'll leave the backing in just to reinforce, and then I will fill all these slots with Bondo. So this is after the Bondo fill and the light sand. I'm gonna cut the diagonal before I continue sanding, just because it will reduce the sanding a little bit, because I won't have to sand anything beyond that line. Anyway, that's the next thing I'm gonna do, is cut that and then start doing some sanding. I'm not gonna record the sanding because it's boring, but it's gonna be a nice rounded corner when it's finished, and that is where we're at. need a bit more filler in there. That one filled good. So this is what the sanded corner looks like. And this is what the pre-sanded corner looks like. I've cut the slope on the wedge already. I filled it with Bondo and some spot filler, which I'm sanding now to make the curve smooth. This will probably need to be touched up with that. I got pretty good penetration on the Bondo on these ones. Anyway, so I'm just sanding. I'm not gonna record that, but we'll take a look at it after, see how it turns out. So now that we got the corners sort of rough sanded, I gotta do some sanding on the inside to smooth this out, because there will be a port across the top here. That's what these are 1.5 spacers. It's not in the right position right now. I'm just using it to cut the baffle to length and size to fit in. It lines up with, where are you there? That line there. And this is inside the rear chamber. This is outside the rear chamber. Obviously that's not going to be there. So yeah, I'm going to cut, the next thing I'm going to do is cut the wedge for that. It'll be a lot like this piece here. It just won't be quite as long, because it'll be actually longer than the side pieces, because there's no curve, so it'll come straight into here. So anyway, that's the next thing that I'm going to cut to get in there. So it didn't quite line up properly, but I think it'll be close enough I can fill it. So if I need to glue and fill it, that's fine. I'm not too worried about it. So the next thing before I glue that in, I'm gonna do is drill the cutout for the sub. Well, shit, does not leave a lot of baffle if I cut the 7.5 cutout. Well, hopefully this will work, because that's what we got to work with. Yikes. Well, there it is. Hopefully that's gonna work. Glue it in the box. Find out, I guess. So that's how the baffle sits in the box. So the logical next thing to do is a fake drop-in test fit for the sub. So not sure how many of you know about sixes. This is the first six order I've ever built. I went for an uber complicated design because it has to fit behind my back seats in my sedan and still leave room for a stroller. So this is a great option to get the most output out of the smallest sub. I guess I can probably put that 3/4 one back. Anyway, the chambers it's a series tuned 6 order. It's 1 to 1.5 are the volume ratios. The tuning is 2958, I believe. And yeah, so that's how I positioned this baffle where it is. I originally designed it with 5/8. I couldn't buy any 5/8 because of the wood shortage, neither here nor there. So the next step is to glue this in. Once this is glued in, I will glue the port baffle or the port wall in. The port wall will need to be cut to meet up with the wedge panel, and I also need to cut the 4x6 front port, which so that's a 24 area, and now that's the one that's 7 inches long and tuned to 58 hertz. So moving right along. So unfortunately there was a small error in my cutting, and I made this panel baffle about a 1/16 or a 32nd of an inch too short, so it wouldn't meet up with the rear panel. So I added basically a 1/16 inch buildup of Bondo to the edge of the wood. Not ideal, but at least when I nail this panel onto it, there's no gaps, so the nails won't deflect the board at all because it's sitting directly on it. And you can see like it sits on the top. It's touching all the way. Oh, there's a bad shot there. Touching all the way along, and then nice and aligned at the bottom. That way we get a good seal. What I'll do is I'll once I've nailed it in place, I'll silicone it from the back side through the hole. It might be a bit of a challenge, but I'll do all the other siliconing prior to gluing the box together or gluing the rear panel on, so that way it's a little bit easier to seal all the edges, because obviously once the box is together, some of them will be very difficult to get at. So I cut the rear port to go in the box. It is 19 inches long, I believe. All these numbers were calculated obviously before I started building the box, and the length that extends into the rear chamber versus the length that extends into the front chamber is all calculated into the net volumes of each chamber. So it has to be set at the right length here, which I've got marked out. As you can see, I've already tapered it to match up with the wedge. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna damage the corner of it. Actually, you know, we gotta sand it before we put it in there. So I'm gonna sand it. I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm gonna sand it. Then I'm going to do the gluing. So we'll get right back to that. Okay, so there is the curved inlet profile and whatever. I don't know which one's inlet outlet. I guess they're both inlet and outlet because the air is moving in both directions. Anyways, I've done a long or a high radius curve on the inside of the port and a small radius curve on the outside, just for any air wrapping around. There won't be a ton, but it gives it a nice round, smooth surface for incoming and outgoing air. I left the end like with a little flat section so that I know that it's the proper length, so I didn't shorten the piece at all. Anyway, the next thing I'm gonna do is glue it in. Then, oh, this is a scrap piece from Space Jizz. Anyway, we will put this in and glue it, and what I'm going to do is maybe put a stop so that when I put it on the ground, okay, so next thing. So the part width is 1.5 inches, so I got a 1.5 inch spacer. Need a clamp. Need wood glue. Just where? There it is. We're gonna glue this guy in place. So that wraps up part 2 of the Wedge 6th order build. I believe I just got to the rear port, putting the rear port in. So the next thing I will do on the in the third video is put the front port in. This guy right here, or right there. I don't know if I included putting the terminal screw plate on or putting the bolts in for the pass through for the sub. But I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. Anyway, I will finish putting that video together ASAP so I can get all 3 parts posted. And as always, thanks for watching part 2. Hopefully you'll stick around and watch part 3. And then, yeah, hit that subscribe button. I'd love the support. I appreciate the existing support and lots more videos to come. Thanks again.